All right, so this is part 2 in obsessive possessions. So this is something, a category, headlamps, where I've purchased many and been very picky and sold some and given some away and sort of continued my hunt for the perfect headlamp. And for me, this is it. So this is the Nitecore NU25. They just came out with a newer version of this, which so far as I can tell is worse, at least for things that I care about. So I'll tell you what I like about this, and I'll tell you a couple of the other headlamps I've had for comparison. So basically, the first thing I like about this is that it is very small and very light. So as a backpacker, those things are always a priority for me. But even just as a person, I don't like things that are bulky. I don't like overstuffed furniture. I'm an engineer. I like things that do the job and don't have a lot of extra fluff for no good reason. So you may notice also that this doesn't have the original band on it. I changed it out for something homemade. In this case, basically a little bungee cord. I think this is 2.5 mil or 3 mil. I need to change it down to 2 mil because it's a little too tight around my forehead, but I've used it for over a year like this. And this wasn't primarily to save weight. I mean, backpackers are known for sort of cutting up their toothbrushes and things like that to save weight, and I do those kinds of things. But the main reason I did this was from a bulk perspective. Basically, this, again, I can be a little obsessive compulsive. Things like tangled cords and you know, straps that get caught on things as you're trying to do some work, that always bugs me. So I really like this because this is, you know, it's basically a headlamp that can fit inside of your hand. You can put in your pocket or jacket pocket and it doesn't get caught on things. That kind of stuff just drives me nuts, and it probably shouldn't. Probably something I need to work on, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. The secondary benefit, of course, is that it also saves weight, but for me it was mostly about the bulk. So what I actually like about the light itself, besides being lightweight and small and not bulky, is all of its features and how you can get to those features. So it has 2 buttons at the top, power and R. R is for red. I do use red, which preserves your night vision and also doesn't blind your friends around the campfire. And what I like about this red isn't just that it does, let's see, I think low, high, and blinking. I pretty much only use low and high. Blinking is not that helpful for me. But what I like about it compared to this light is that it has a dedicated button. And that means that if you're trying to turn on red and preserve your night vision or not bother your friends around the campfire, you won't accidentally turn it on bright. The problem with this one is basically you cycle through the different things is how it works. And so it's almost impossible to get red to turn on this without blinding yourself or somebody else, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of the red. So I really like that about the red. The other thing the red button does is if you hold it, you get a series of blinking lights, which tells you how much battery life you have. I think 3 blinks is more than 50%, 2 blinks is more than 25, but less than 50, and 1 blink is less than 25. And that's really helpful for me. I'm sort of a data information type of guy. It's one of the reasons I don't like butane stoves, is I like to know how much I have left. That helps me make better decisions, whether I can relax and use the light and do some more reading, or whether I really need to cut back and think about it. Okay, so the main button is fairly self-explanatory. You hit it once, you get low. You do it again, you get medium. You do it again, you get high. And if you hold it, you get something called turbo mode. Basically low, high, or low, medium, high, and turbo. There's nothing really special about that, I would say. If you push and hold the power button, you will get another type of white light. This is more of a floodlight, which is more pleasant for reading or doing tasks like right in front of your face, like maybe reading a map, whereas the main light is better for, it's like a beam that casts out in front of you and is better for walking. So what actually probably the the light that I use it most on number 2, around like walking or at camp. And then at night, if I want to read or do something in my hammock or tent, then low, which is just 1 lumen, is totally enough. You might not think a lumen sounds like much, but it does a lot when your eyes are, ready for the dark. And in the middle of the night, if you need a little light to find something, a lumen is more than adequate. So if you hold this button for 3 seconds, you go into SOS mode. First that turns on, then if you keep it, it goes into SOS mode, which I hope I'll never need, but maybe I will. And if you hold for 3 seconds and then push it again within a second, it goes into beacon mode. So beacon mode is basically just this occasional blip. So like you could attach it to the front of a kayak or something like that if you were worried about being seen or not being, or wanting to be seen, and it would just every once in a while do that. I don't know how much I'll use this, but what it says to me is that Nitecore is able to pack a lot of features and information, like holding red to get the battery life into a very small package, and that's very impressive. Seems like they went above and beyond, offering lots of features. Obviously, it also has the tilt, and this little bracket is very lightweight. And what I like is that Nitecore sells them for like $2.95, so I bought a couple because I did crack one. It is USB micro rechargeable. That's also very important to me. I'm sort of done with AAA batteries for headlamps, things like that. So yeah, I will post the weight of this in the comments, at least of this specific one with this specific band. So the other nice thing about this bracket is you get a lot of flexibility for putting on a normal band, which you can also easily remove, or doing something like this with 2 or 4 or something like that. But yeah, I don't know how much longer you'll be able to get this light, because I know they're replacing it with the new one, which is bigger and heavier, and the user interface I think is not as nice. But for as long as these are around, this will be my light, and if they start getting sparse, I'll probably buy a couple because I'm that big of a fan. For point of reference, before this, I used this BioLite one. All in all, I really didn't like this. I liked the size and weight, but I don't like this huge bracket that it fits into. And they've also chosen to do this really weird closure where these things, they don't stay in their position. So basically every time you put it on loose and you tighten it. And that just gets pretty annoying. I also didn't really like the bulk of it. It's just always kind of getting tangled. And I really didn't like the being able to get to red without going to white first. I also had this one for a little while because it was very simple and minimalistic and USB rechargeable. It's not a bad little light. The battery life I think is not great, although I don't have the measurements in front of me. And it doesn't have red, which is pretty useful for me. So that's why I don't use this one too much anymore. And then all 3 of my children have lights from LED Lenser. So these are, LED Lenser really became known for this feature right here, where you can spin this out and you can go from basically something like a flood to something like a spotlight. In my opinion, this is too much like a spotlight and isn't that useful when walking, and this isn't enough like a flood. And so really cool feature. It put them on the map. I think Leatherman ended up buying them, but I do kind of find that a little bit annoying. Yep, and then as my son's reminding me, if you hold this button, you can flip to red. Oh, I think it has to be off, doesn't it?
Yeah, turn it off and then press it.
Okay, so if you turn it off, I think it'll flip to red, yeah. So that's nice, but again, it's pretty often that you're gonna get blinded with white before. There's also 3 AAAs, which is fairly bulky and kind of annoying when you're trying to recharge on the trail. And it's a fairly big light. But anyway, I've had several before that as well, so I've probably owned, I don't know, something like 10 headlamps, which I'm not that proud of. But yeah, my point was basically that for things that you use a lot, like flashlights and knives, you can, of course, be content with whatever you have. But if you use them a lot and you're on the search for the perfect one, then you just kind of keep hunting until you find it. And I would say this is it. And I hope Nitecore keeps making them, or that they revise the new one to be a little bit more like this one. So yeah, hope that was helpful to somebody. And if not, no big deal. Move on. Go watch a better video. Take care.